Welcome to CSI, Cooking Specialty Ingredients. This educational video for the Hospitality Education Foundation of Georgia has been made possible by a grant from the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program at the U.S. Department of Agriculture and funding from U.S. Foods and Dexter Russell. In CSI Caramelization, Chef Heather Hulbert will be showing us different ingredients that we can caramelize. Chef, how should we begin?
Let's get our mise en place and get started.
Okay. So what are we going to make here?
We're going to talk about caramelization, and this is a great way of doing this by having a couple of different ingredients here to caramelize. You'll obviously see and be able to taste the amount of sugar and the caramelization process as it's cooking. Let's start with the peaches first, and then we'll work our way to the savory products. Instead of just adding the peaches and start cooking it, we're going to start with sugar, and we're going to do a dry caramel, and then we're going to add the peaches after it caramelizes. This is called a dry caramel because all you're going to do is add sugar. You're not adding water. Some caramelizations you add water and sugar, and that would be considered a wet caramel. So go ahead and sprinkle maybe a spoonful just over the pan, and you're going to start to slowly see it melt.
Caramelization starts at?
The caramelization actually starts at 320 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So that's when it starts, and then it goes up to about 360. And so in this process, we're not going to actually be watching or looking at the temperature. You're actually going to be watching it and seeing the color. So as you can see, it's starting to melt. Let's go ahead, add maybe another spoonful of the sugar.
Okay. You know, when we think about caramelization, we only ever think about with onions. That's the first thing that kind of comes to mind. You never really think about carrots or anything else. What other things here can we use to?
Oh, well, you can certainly caramelize any of these, even the corn, because corn is very high in sugar. So that would actually make a great candied corn risotto. Now you're starting to smoke, go ahead and start adding the peaches. And basically by adding the peaches, what you're doing is you're stopping the caramelization as well as deglazing the sugar. And what it does is it extracts all the moisture out of the peaches and acts as almost like a sauce. Like when you're making bananas Fosters, you start actually with sugar and butter, and you caramelize that, and then you deglaze it with alcohol. It smells amazing. So as you can see, it has a beautiful golden color to it. It smells like it's caramelizing.
Yeah, it looks great.
And see, this would be great over, what do you think it would be good over?
Ice cream.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. That was my first thought.
Love ice cream.
Just pour it over some ice cream and you're set. But certainly you could, even with this, you could turn this into a coulis.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as it's finished cooking, put it straight in the food processor. All right, that looks beautiful. So go ahead and pour it into your container. Perfect.
Looks great.
All right, the next ingredient that we're going to caramelize are carrots.
Okay. Same process that we were doing before?
Well, actually, now you're going to start with butter instead.
Pour it all in?
No, just a little piece. So you want to melt that, and you have to be really careful with butter. But because butter has milk solids in it, it will tend to burn
much faster.
Easier than olive oil.
Add in my carrots.
Go ahead. And carrots are very high in sugar, so it's one of those ingredients that will caramelize very easily. You don't have to necessarily add additional sugar. I'm sure you've had glazed carrots many a times.
It's very good. Around Thanksgiving.
Exactly. So what else do you think that you would be able to caramelize?
I don't know. I was just thinking about that. Researching caramelization. Really, you're just bringing out the natural sugars in the food. You could almost caramelize anything.
Exactly. With corn, even peppers, red onions are wonderful. I'm sure you've had what's really popular nowadays is red onion jam.
Yes.
And it's the same process. Okay, you could probably stop now. So I'm going to have you add just a little bit of butter.
All right.
If you want to just add a little bit. You can see it has a nice beautiful brown color on the outside. All right, you can go ahead and take that off. Let me get you a... Now this time I think I'm going to have you use olive oil to caramelize the onions versus the butter. Butter tends to brown quite easily to make brown butter. And so with the onions, because it's going to take a little bit more time to caramelize versus the carrots, I like to use olive oil and then just finish it again with a little bit of butter for flavor. So go ahead and start adding the onions. And initially what you're trying to do is you're trying to sweat the onions. And what is it when you're sweating the onions?
Taking out the moisture.
Exactly. Cook at a medium temperature and you stir it constantly so it doesn't burn, because it will take a little bit more time. And also if you want, you can just add a pinch of sugar. And the sugar will also help with the caramelization and start that process going. Just a pinch. I love the flavor of caramelization. I think it gives it a nice rich nuttiness to anything, and so it really adds a nice depth to any ingredients that you're using, and obviously to a composed dessert or an entree that you're making. It really adds a nice depth to it.
These are starting to become translucent almost.
Exactly. And so at this point, once all the moisture is extracted, then the sugars will start coming out, and then you will start to see it actually caramelize. And in the caramelization process, you'll see it going through 3 steps. It will go from almost a blonde state to a light brown and then to the dark brown. Obviously, if you're doing French onion soup, you would want it super, super caramelized. Well, let's start with the peaches. And already just from sitting there,
You can start to see the
it's formed a sauce, yeah. A caramel sauce. Let's go ahead and taste one.
It's really good.
It's delicious.
Now for the carrots.
All right. Carrots took on a really, really beautiful brown color. That's delicious. It's really sweet without adding any sugar.
Good. Now for the lawn stage, you said it was?
So it has a little crunch.
That's really good.
That would be really good tossed with some green beans.
Picture that on a burger.
Or collard greens, or kale, or peppers.
All those vegetables.
It's delicious. All right, let's try the...
And now for the finished product. It tastes the smoky flavor in it.
It's much more intense. The
There you
onion
go.
flavor. That's delicious. It's really good. Good job. Thank you for watching CSI.
I hope the techniques that we showed you today are going to help you in your classes, your competitions, and your kitchens at home.